You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So interestingly, a very small part of this fight with remote work and going back to work, this isn't the whole reason. There's a lot of other reasons people would like to work remotely. But an issue that is resurfacing is the issue as it pertains to grooming and beards and piercings and body odor. And I'm starting to get more patients call in saying they need my help because they can't, I guess, have what they have when they go back to work, as the office has certain standards. And as it pertains to facial hair, as it pertains to body art, as it pertains to piercings. And in fact, somebody had called up a couple months ago saying his boss needs him to address his body odor. And he doesn't like to wear deodorant. And he needed my help. And I'm, and so these are things that it doesn't really make the news, but I'm telling you is happening. With the body odor person, many of you use, there's deodorants and antiperspirants. And antiperspirants can sometimes cause, especially when weather starts to get warm, this heat rash. And there's a lot of individuals who do not tolerate wearing antiperspirant. It burns them. They get a rash. They have to start walking around like this. And so they're like, I'm not going to do it. Or their medical provider told them not to do it. Well, not wearing antiperspirant, they may start to sweat. Not wearing deodorant, they may start to stink. And then now you have a situation where at work, people don't want to smell you. Is it McConaughey, the actor who refuses to wear deodorant? There was, I guess, a story where he doesn't wear deodorant and everybody just has to put up with it. I mean, he looks like he's Matt McConaughey. Matt McConaughey looks like he smells great, but from what we're hearing with some interviews from previous co-stars, he didn't want to wear deodorant. And so what do you have in terms of protection? So first and foremost, okay, if ever there's this disconnect, okay, one is get your company policy. Get in writing what actually it says and why. Is it because the beards could get trapped in machinery? Is it because the hair can get trapped? You know, in a hospital, in a medical setting, hair has to be up. I can't be walking around with the hair, the way my hair has to be up. In fact, I had a lot shorter hair when I was doing my training because you just couldn't have hair flipping and flopping around the place. That was a safety issue. In terms of food prep, if there is an issue, most kitchens will provide the hair net. But when I waited tables, hair had to be away. Hair had to be pulled back. And so you want to definitely get the company policy and find out why. If there doesn't seem to be an actual patient safety or customer safety, you can always check with the labor board. The labor board has, for every industry, guidelines and things that are allowed or appropriate or by law. And so if there ever is a concern, look, this is, I want my piercing or I want, to... you have rights, and the labor board can provide that. But I have had some, I think there was one gentleman, he might have been a firefighter, and the work needed him to shave his beard. But when he shaves, he gets folliculitis, where he gets inflamed hair follicles. And so he needed me to write a work excuse, an accommodation, so that he didn't have to shave, because when he shaves, he starts getting these big red pustules, and he doesn't want that. As long as he doesn't shave, he doesn't have that issue. So if there's a medical reasoning behind what you need to, I guess, have in terms of facial hair, etc., then you could have accommodations, and then the ADA could protect you. So if you're getting severe rashes because of underarm deodorants, then you could have a medical provider provide that. Now, BO, body odor, can be very distracting. If you have other workers that cannot do what they need to do because they're so worried holding their nose, that can be a safety issue. That can be an issue. And then your employer might have to find a solution because they're then stuck between a rock and a hard place. They could have employees complain that they are working in conditions where they can't breathe the air around them. And so now they could be like, look, I'm getting nauseous. So you have to make accommodations so I don't have to have that smell or that scent near me. So it does take some choreography if that does happen. By the way, there are things you could do if you do not tolerate antiperspirants or deodorants, or you just do not want to put those chemicals on you. There are other things that you can use. In fact, there's even medical procedures for people who sweat, like hyperhidrosis, and who just aren't able to manage their condition with over-the-counter products. Dermatologists can provide a variety of options for people who sweat, for people who have body odors. Sometimes these body odors could be a sign of a severe medical issue. I remember working with somebody who passed a lot of gas, and we thought it was diet related, but he could have also had irritable bowel. He could have had Crohn's. He could have had. And so if you are the person that people are complaining about, still get a medical exam to see what it is, because you might be having something that really needs to be medically addressed. Some people smell very fruity, and that could be a sign of diabetes. When you kind of have this smell, it's like a ketone, kind of not so fun, fruity smell. That could happen for individuals who have diabetes. And so sometimes somebody telling you that you have an odor doesn't always mean it's something bad. Vaginal odors can be a sign of bacterial vaginosis or something, or a retained tampon or something like that. So there's options for people who want protection at work, but also make sure you don't have something medically wrong. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel for being our amazing producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So, I don't really like to get involved with a lot of the Hollywood drama. I think a lot of this Hollywood drama is trying to bring, shall we say, attention and, I don't know, media and press to the movies. Like this whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldini thing. What was the movie called? I actually saw it on the plane and it stunk. I did not like the movie at all. It was I watched it. I think it ends with us. And Blake Lively, she didn't do bad. She's not a bad actress. Justin Baldini did okay. But there's all this off-the-set drama between them where I think she's accusing him of sexual harassment. And he had posted all his text to her going, no, I'm here for you. We're working together. I want to make sure you're comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And when you read them, it's really kind of disgusting. I don't really want to hear Hollywood people talk really weird. In medicine, it's, room 3 needs a catheter. Got it. Very simple. But in Hollywood, they really put a lot into text. And so this ends with us film where I guess Lively is a woman who gets hit and pushed down the stairs by her husband. And then he tries to rape her, and she tries to get away from him, it's an interesting story. Sadly, it's one that mirrors many domestic violence stories that we have in real life, but the movie did not deserve all this press, and because of this back and forth between Blake Lively and Baldoni. It's starting to make them both look bad. Now Ryan Reynolds is pulled into it, looking like he's also trying to shame Baldini. And it's just, I don't know. And so I think, just for the movie's sake, because the movie sucks, and the more people see this, right, the more they talk bad about it, the sooner they could get this all addressed, the better. Of course, people are watching this case closely because if Blake Lively is not being truthful about actual on-screen harassment or harassment, and it was somebody crying wolf, that hurts women, that hurts victims who really do need to, have an outlet and have an ability to get help and be able to get justice for that being done. A lot of people are on the side of Baldoni because they see his texts and they go, she invited him in when she was breastfeeding and exposed, and they were acting like that. Why all of a sudden did it change? Where did it go? Now, what was so? I'm not here to comment on that. I just don't care. I really don't like to get involved with the Hollywood stuff. But Snow White is now making the rounds and all that controversy. So if you remember, Snow White made in 1937 by Disney. I think I only watched it once, right? She and the Seven Dwarves, and there's, I think, a Wicked Queen, and she needs a prince to save her. I always mix her up with Sleeping Beauty, because Sleeping Beauty had to be kissed. But Snow White, I don't know. And I wasn't a really big Disney fan, because once they killed off Bambi's mom, I'm like, these movies are kind of depressing. And Cinderella depressed me. Because, I didn't look like her. I knew I felt like I looked more like the stepsisters. So I'm like, so I'm not going to be able to get a prince. So I was never really into the whole Disney thing. I never felt like a princess. So I wasn't, but I love Disneyland. So I appreciate, what Disney has done over the years for kids. But, well, with the Snow White movie, apparently it was made during the peak of woke rules. And they decided to change the story. When Peter Dinklage had spoken out about how it's ridiculous for there to be dwarves and for people with dwarfism or achondroplasia to be still playing these roles. He spoke out against it. What he didn't realize is people with achondroplasia or dwarfism or other short stature disagreed with what he said because they use these opportunities for work. And they, once Snow White decided to remove the 7 dwarves and make them the magical creatures, it put a bunch of individuals who are pretty vulnerable to work opportunities out of work. And so it just started to unravel. Now, the star of Snow White is a very talented woman, but she decided to be very vocal about her political views, which, by the way, we have a free country. You could be as vocal, as you thank God we have the ability to express ourselves, our social media, etc. But apparently she related it with the movie, where she found the original movie sexist and how she couldn't watch it again. And so now there are people that want to not only boycott Snow White because they changed the story to something that it isn't anymore, but because they want to boycott her and her, pro-Palestinian, anti-hostage stance, things like that. And I don't know where she stands on the hostages, but that really struck a chord. And her co-star is Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot is Israeli, served in the military, has been campaigning to get those hostages away and home from the torture and the rape and the murder that they are still at risk for, if not already dead. So now here's what Hollywood is doing is with this premiere, as Snow White is supposed to be coming out, I think in the next week or two, they're starting to limit access to the press for her. She could go on Instagram, but they're trying to make the events, the red carpet events, less, shall we say, populated with media, because they think she's going to use that platform for politics. Now, it's interesting. I've said this once and I'll say it again. If you are fortunate enough to get an amazing role and to be in the public eye and to be able to do the art that Hollywood provides, understand your audience. Your audience isn't looking to you to run for political office and to give you your opinion on political matters. They are watching that movie because they want an escape. They want to be taken to a story. Now, I understand people say, wow, well, I have this platform. So if I have this platform, it is my duty. I need to use this platform for that. But that could come back and bite you. And I believe there are a lot more things you could do that can help with that. And I get she's young and she's very excited about her fame. And if that's what she wants to do with her fame, she is free to do that. But you could see how green she is, because now Hollywood is going to be limiting the amount of press and access. Although, does that really matter? Because once somebody publishes something, then everybody can get it. And so one thing I've noticed is if you want to change the world, sometimes there's a better way to do it. For me, I love that saying, you catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. I was pretty impressed with what Brad Pitt, I don't know if Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie did this together, but I know Brad Pitt got a lot of the camera time. But when Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, and I believe he was with Angelina Jolie at the time, they built homes. And I know there was a lot of back and forth on the homes and the quality of the homes, et cetera. But, rather than being all political, and he put his money where his mouth is. Let me help Katrina victims. When you see individuals donate or help build or provide, that helps. Oprah went down to Lanai, went down to Maui. I think she lives there, and helped Now, I don't know if it was more of a camera shoot or a photo op because people were saying, wait, you live here and you're not helping? You're not letting people on your ranch and all that. But she, again, whether it was because she was goaded into or not, she went and helped. And so, looking at this star, she's a very talented actress. But if she really wants to change the world, there might be more strategic ways of doing that than ticking everybody off with wokeism. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. All right. So this is something that, I feel like I need to comment on. And this is a very, very controversial topic. And I understand that this is driving a huge divide among individuals and bringing up freedom of speech, etc. But this Mahmoud Khalil green card holder that has been arrested for some of his activity and has been threatened deportation because of these college campus protests has drawn a bunch of criticism and back and forth. And everybody's saying we don't have free speech anymore. And I think people are getting a little bit confused about what the situation is. Now, being a daughter of an immigrant, what my family was led to believe is not only could they not violate any laws because they would lose their green card status, they would lose any ability to become citizens, which they did. They studied for the test, they learned the language, became citizens, etc. But they not only could not conduct any criminal activity, they couldn't be anti-American. They couldn't be, now this was at the time in the 60s, they couldn't be a part of disarray or activities that hurt Americans, that impede on other Americans. And if at all they were a menace or they impeded, the flow of traffic or the flow of somebody getting medical care or et cetera. If they pinged that radar, the U.S. at any time could say, we don't want you here. And so my family was on obviously very good behavior. They were so grateful to be able to come into this country. They learned the language, took the classes, took the test, and became citizens. And then my dad ended up marrying my mom and then having me. So I'm very, very, very grateful. With what's going on now in terms of Mahmoud Khalil, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Mahmoud Khalil. The issues isn't that he said something and that America is not allowing him to have free speech. You can, say, I love America, or I love Iran, or I love Germany, or I love that. That's protected. But what's been happening on campuses has been actually criminal. And so even though he hasn't been charged of a crime, if he is organizing, if he's not a student and he is on that property and he is organizing these protests that seem to align with a terrorist organization who is still currently having Americans held hostage, possibly being raped, tortured, murdered, all right, that starts to fall under actions where, yeah, the government can revoke your green card. The fact that Jewish students and teachers and people cannot go to class and cannot be a part, have their rights of their ability to just go to class. Now that also puts somebody's behavior, such as Mahmoud Khalil's alleged behavior, under the umbrella of this is anti-American. If you're not allowing an American to do what they need to do, go to class, learn in class. If you're coming into class or organizing these protests where people come into class and interrupt the class and are given flyers calling for the death of Israel, where they have family and hostages and religious landmarks that they care about, that's now beyond speech. And so people are going back and forth going, yeah, but can he be deported because he didn't necessarily get, shall we say, charged with the crime? I mean, that could come if there is trespassing and organizing and impeding people's rights. There could be some charges with that. But technically, from what I understand, and I'm no legal expert, your green card could be revoked for activity that is not necessarily criminal, but is anti-American or impeding with the rights of other Americans. If somebody coming to this country, I mean, you gotta, read the room. If you're coming to this country and you are impeding what an American wants to do in terms of going to class or going to a store or making them feel unsafe, didn't a teacher have to, and again, I clarify this. I heard a rumor that they wouldn't let one of the teachers go to the bathroom and then they had to pee on themselves. Is that true? This is not behavior that freedom of speech protects. I mean, if I walked, into Germany and said, I love Germany, that's great. If I say, oh, I hate you guys suck, you guys, whatever, I'm going to ping the radar. What are you doing here? Why are you here? Well, I want to enjoy the benefits of the country. I want your police to protect me. But you all suck, and I'm not going to let you go to class, and I'm not going to. Germany would kick my butt out. And so I understand people are turning this into, yeah, but this is anti-constitutional. Well, peaceful assembly is which I will, until the day I die, advocate for peaceful assembly, freedom of speech. Now, thank God America has those protections, but peaceful assembly is a peaceful assembly. We want to stand in front of the White House. We want to stand over here near this campus building. You could be peacefully in assembly wherever you want in America. I mean, you can't go on a military base, but you could peaceful assemble on the street, on the sidewalk. However, once you impede somebody else from needing to get where they need to go, that's not peaceful assembly. That's not freedom of speech. What if some of these students were diabetic and they needed to get to their insulin that was held in a refrigerator in that campus area, or they needed to go to their car to get to their cooler that had their insulin? Now, is that a crime? So I'm not swayed on this whole, well, it's freedom of speech and peaceful assembly to be making Jews and making faculty and students and people who even want to stay neutral on this, causing them to not be able to access their classes, causing them to not be able, I mean, these sit-ins, these takeovers, like these, there were these individuals who were blocking the highways. that were sitting on a highway, not allowing cars to come through. Okay, I believe that's deportable. If you are not an American citizen and you are interrupting the flow of traffic, and you're interrupting, that could be construed domestic terrorism. If first responders need to get somewhere, if somebody needs to get to a hospital, these are not actions that are peaceful assembly. Now, you could boycott a product. You don't want to buy a product, you don't have to. You could say you dislike the president, and you could still keep your green card. But it's your actions and your conduct that could get you deported, especially if it is aligning with the terrorist organization. Now, bipartisanly, and this really shouldn't be a partisan thing. I mean, everybody should be on the same page. What happened on October 7th was disgusting. It was murderous. It was pure evil. Should have never happened. And also the fact that Palestinians are being ruled by Hamas shouldn't be happening. Palestine needs to be free from Hamas, but that's who's ruling them. I don't know whether they elected them on purpose or it was by force, but we all agree that Hamas, well, I think we all should agree that Hamas is evil. And it is a designated terrorist group. So, yes, can Mahmoud Khalil be deported? Technically, yes. 1-877 Dr. Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So we're being told that the federal dietary guidelines are soon going to change for Americans, according to the HHS and the USDA. Makes sense, especially since our obesity is getting worse, our health overall is getting worse. It's about time. And it looks like also my computer volume is getting worse. So I'll fix that. So Make America Healthy Again is the campaign that Trump ran on, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ran on, and now that he's HHS secretary, he's been getting to work and hitting the ground running. And so they held their inaugural meeting on Monday with USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins. And the commission for Make America Healthy Again includes USDA, the HHS, And they are now conducting a line-by-line review of the 2025 dietary guidelines for Americans released by the Biden administration last year. And Secretary Rowlands told Fox News that I commend President Trump on his bold leadership to empower Americans to live longer, healthier, more abundant lives. I look forward to collaborating with my colleagues across the cabinet and leading efforts at the Department of Agriculture to encourage healthy choices, outcomes, and families. I think this is a good thing. The agencies announced they will be releasing the 2025 to 2030 report ahead of the end-of-year deadline. They said over the past 100 years, the federal government has provided advice on what Americans should eat and drink based off of nutrition and health advances in science. The agencies shared there will be a holistic process, improvements to ensure transparency and minimize any conflicts of interest, which is very good. So what that means is, let's say there's a company or there's a food industry that's lobbying for, well, condiments can be allowed, and they're going to hopefully be free of food industry and lobbying sort of pressure on these guidelines, as well as transparency as to where did this data come from. They say Rollins said that the 2025 to 2030 guidelines will be based on sound science, not political science. Thank you. Gone are the days where the leftist ideologies guide public policy. Secretary Kennedy said updating the guidelines is a giant step in making America the healthiest country in the world. We are going to make sure the dietary guidelines will reflect the public interest and serve public health rather than special interests. So we don't know the specifics. Are they going to change the oils, the salt, is it going to include essential fatty acids, avocado, things like that? They say commonly consumed oils include canola, corn, olive, peanut, safflower, soybean, sunflower oils. And there's been a lot of concern about some of these seed oils, and Steak and Shake just switched to beef tallow as a healthier alternative. As I said yesterday, I don't know much about it. It's a rendered fat, which means it's fat from the calf, and then they heat it and they melt it and they get rid of impurities, but it's still fat, so it can still raise triglycerides. It's still a form of fat. But is that healthier than some of these seed oils? And we don't want us eating unsaturated fat. We want to move more towards unsaturated fats. But people are spoiled. They like their French fries. They like their burgers. They like their fried chicken. They like their fried cod. And so things are a little different these days as it was 100 years ago. 100 years ago, your food was a lot more fresh, a lot more farm to table, which changed with the Industrial Revolution. The reason why we are where we are today is because we advanced. Rather than living on a farm or going to a farmer's market and getting our daily food, right? Many of us started working in the cities. This was actually before 100 years ago, during the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. And so we had to go to the cities. And yes, there's always been restaurants and pubs, etc. But most of your dining was at home. And it was fresh food. And you would, if you even lived in the city, you still had access to farm fresh food. The problem is people don't have time to eat farm fresh. They need to store their food. We had to learn how to preserve our foods. We had to learn how to cool our foods and keep them from spoiling. And we also had to make sure that if we had grains and rices, that they wouldn't get mold, that they wouldn't get maggots and all sorts of other things that can happen on the shelf. And as a result, then our packaging had to change. And they found that wax paper plastic or paper or plastic could keep elements out and keep things safe. And now you could buy food that can last weeks, even months on the shelf. Well, in order to make something last that long, oftentimes it also has preservatives. And these preservatives are antibacterial, antiviral. The more fresh you have, the more chance you have of bacteria and pathogens. But the less fresh you have, the more preservatives. And many individuals nowadays, the majority of their food is fake food, where it's all full of preservatives. Wasn't there that, there was that story or YouTube or whatever where somebody had a McDonald's hamburger or they found one that was sitting out there for years and it still looked the same? Listen, I like McDonald's hamburgers. They taste great. But what the hell is in it to make it survive like that and still look the same? I still wouldn't eat it at that point. It's disgusting. I'm getting nauseous just thinking about that. But this is how we are able to ship food, store food, and serve food weeks after it came from the cow or the chicken. So this is something that HHS wants to address, and you can. There are ways to protect your food that doesn't necessarily have to involve preservatives. Now, there should be a push to go more fresh. Another thing we're doing is we're spraying everything with pesticides so that we don't have animals and bugs infest our produce. I get that. Okay, people do not want to buy spinach that looks half eaten by a worm. I get that. And so pesticides prevent that. But in order for you to get your full leaf of spinach, what pesticides are you being exposed to? Do we have a good cleaning process? We wash things off. Is that enough? Is anybody looking into that? I know a lot of people are looking at organics because they think organics have less chemicals on them, and that's great. But why are they so much more expensive? And why do they not have more nutritional value? Study after study has shown organic vegetables and fruits aren't necessarily more nutritious. They might be safer in terms of less chemicals, but they might not be as nutritious. And then because of food shortages and issues, our chickens and our beef and cows are getting plumpier. They're making them plumpier so there's more meat. How are they doing that? Hormones. People don't want hormones in their food. Well, have you seen a chicken that isn't, hormoned up? I mean, it's not going to be a lot of chicken. You're going to have to be okay with that. So the USDA and the HHS and the FDA have a lot of work ahead of them. But I'm glad somebody's doing that work. The easy path is to just keep doing what they're doing. But some of these salt recommendations of 2,300 milligrams a day or 1,200 if you have a cardiac condition, that might need to be changed. I understand Bernie Sanders says we don't need to relitigate the science. Is it Bernie Sanders who said that about vaccines and things like that? Actually, we always need to reevaluate the science. Is 2,300 milligrams of sodium too much? Is a certain amount of teaspoons of sugar that people feel that they could be under, is that enough or is that too much? Is everybody different? Should people of different size and stature of races who have different physiology be given the exact same recommendation as everybody else? So we do need to relook at the science. Absolutely. So well done. 1-877-Dr.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.